there is a rhythm to the cosmos, a silent pulse beneath the surface of our days, an ancient heartbeat that has guided civilizations, shaped destinies, and whispered secrets to those who dare to listen. We stand now at the threshold of a turning point, a moment in the grand celestial dance known as the Great Year, a cycle so vast that its full span stretches across millennia, yet so precise that its influence can be felt in the very air we breathe. You have sensed it, haven't you? The subtle shift in the wind, the quiet knowing that something is stirring beneath the fabric of ordinary reality. The year 2025 is not merely another marker on the calendar. It is a convergence point, a juncture where hidden timelines intersect, where the veils between worlds grow thin, and where the choices of humanity ripple outward into the unseen architecture of fate. The Great Year, known to the ancients as the Platonic Year, is a cosmic cycle spanning approximately 25,920 Earth years, a grand procession of the heavens dictated by the slow, majestic wobble of our planet's axis. Within this vast spiral of time, epochs rise and fall, civilizations bloom and fade, and the very consciousness of humanity undergoes profound metamorphosis. And now, as we approach 2025, we find ourselves at a critical inflection point within this greater cycle, a moment when the hidden hands of destiny are at work, realigning the threads of possibility. But what does this mean for you? Why does this year carry such weight? The answer lies not in the loud proclamations of prophets or the rigid predictions of doomsayers, but in the quiet, symbolic language of the universe itself. The Great Year is divided into ages, each ruled by a different constellation, each imprinting its essence upon the collective soul. We are emerging from the Age of Pisces, an era of duality, faith, and fragmentation, and stepping into the Age of Aquarius, a time of synthesis, awakening, and the reunification of knowledge long suppressed. 2025 is not an arbitrary date. It is a trigger point, a moment when the undercurrents of this transition surge to the surface. The old structures, political, economic, spiritual, are trembling. The stories we have told ourselves about power, identity, and reality are being rewritten before our eyes. And beneath it all, the hidden timeline, the one not recorded in history books, but etched into the very bones of the earth, is reasserting itself. This is not about fear. This is about recognition. The universe is speaking through synchronicities, through dreams, through the sudden, inexplicable knowing that arises in the quiet hours of the night. The question is, are you listening? If these words stir something within you, if you feel the resonance of a deeper truth, then you are already attuned to the hidden currents. The journey we're about to undertake is not one of mere information, but of remembrance. Together, we will unravel the layers of the Great Year, decode its symbols, and explore how this celestial clock shapes not only the destiny of civilizations, but the very core of your being. Before we proceed, I invite you to pause. Let these ideas settle. If this message speaks to you, consider leaving a comment below. Share your thoughts, your questions, your own glimpses of this unfolding mystery. And if you wish to journey deeper into the hidden architecture of time, subscribing will ensure you don't miss a single revelation. Time is not a straight line. It is a spiral, an ascending coil of repeating patterns, each turn echoing the last, yet evolving into something new. The Great Year, this grand celestial clockwork, operates on principles that transcend the mechanical ticking of seconds and minutes. It moves in epochs, in ages, in vast sweeps of energy that shape civilizations, mold consciousness, and orchestrate the rise and fall of worlds. At the heart of this mystery lies the precession of the equinoxes, the slow, celestial wobble of Earth's axis that traces a 25,920-year cycle. Imagine the Earth as a spinning top, gradually tilting in space, its pole tracing a slow circle against the backdrop of distant stars. This movement shifts our planet's orientation to the cosmos, altering which constellation rises with the sun at the spring equinox. Each shift ushers in a new astrological age, imprinting its essence upon humanity like an invisible hand guiding the currents of history. We are transitioning from the Age of Pisces, an era defined by faith, sacrifice, and duality, where truths were veiled and power was centralized, into the Age of Aquarius, an age of revelation, decentralization, and collective awakening. But transitions between ages are not clean, instantaneous shifts. They are threshold periods, times of turbulence where the old world struggles to maintain its grip while the new one surges forth in fits and starts. And 2025 stands as one of the most potent inflection points in this crossing. The Great Year is not a singular, monolithic wheel. It is composed of smaller, interlocking cycles, each a fractal reflection of the whole. The Mayans spoke of world ages, the Vedic seers of Yugas, the Greeks of ages of man. Each tradition, in its own way, recognized that time moves in waves golden, silver, bronze, and iron before beginning anew. We are now in the Kali Yuga's twilight, the darkest phase of the cycle, where materialism and illusion reign. Yet, just as night is thickest before dawn, the end of Kali Yuga is said to bring a sudden flash of clarity, a return to higher wisdom before the next golden age emerges. The year 2025 aligns with multiple prophetic and astronomical markers: Pluto's entry into Aquarius, the completion of key planetary alignments, and the acceleration of global upheavals that serve as the death throes of an old paradigm. Modern society clings to the myth of endless progress, the idea that history is a straight march forward, that technology and institutions will inevitably improve the human condition. But the Great Year tells a different story. Civilizations rise and fall in rhythm with the stars. Empires reach their zenith, then crumble. Knowledge is gained, then lost, then rediscovered. The same archetypal dramas play out again and again, each time with new actors on the stage. What we call progress is often just the rediscovery of truths known long ago. The Electric Age, a rekindling of ancient understandings of energy. The Internet, a digital echo of the Akashic records. The Great Year does not deny innovation, it contextualizes it within a far grander narrative. The most crucial theme of this transition is the quickening of human consciousness. As the Aquarian currents strengthen, the veils between dimensions thin. Synchronicities multiply. Dreams grow more vivid. People awaken sometimes suddenly to the realization that reality is far stranger, far more malleable than they were taught. This is not an accident, it is by design. The cosmos is shifting its frequency, and humanity is being tuned to a higher octave. Some will resist, clinging to the fading Piscean structures of dogma and control. Others will feel the call, the undeniable pull towards something greater. The Great Year does not dictate our fate, it presents us with archetypal energies, currents we can either align with or defy. 2025 is not an end, nor a beginning, but a turning point, a moment where the hidden timeline becomes visible to those with eyes to see. The question is no longer whether the world is changing, but how we will meet that change. Will we sleepwalk through the transition, or will we step into our role as conscious participants in the unfolding cosmic story? The next layer of this exploration takes us into deeper symbolic narratives, the myths, the prophecies, and the hidden codes that reveal the true nature of this shift. History is not merely a record of events, it is a living tapestry of symbols, a grand mythic drama in which humanity plays both actor and audience. The ancients understood this. They encoded their knowledge not in dry chronicles, but in stories of gods and heroes, of floods and rebirths, of celestial signs and earthly transformations. These myths are not mere fables, they are archetypal blueprints, echoes of the Great Year's cyclical nature, whispering to us across millennia. Nearly every culture speaks of a great purification, a flood, a fire, a cataclysm that wipes away the old to make way for the new. The Egyptians had the phoenix, the bird that burns itself to ashes only to rise again. The Hindus speak of pralaya, the cosmic dissolution between world ages. The Norse foretold Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, after which a fresh green earth would emerge. These are not prophecies of doom, but metaphors for transformation. The phoenix does not die forever, it is reborn, renewed, its essence preserved even as its form changes. So too does humanity stand at such a moment. The systems that have governed us political, economic, spiritual, are being tested, not for annihilation, but for transmutation. The fires we see around us are not the end, but the crucible in which something new is being forged. Beneath the official narratives of history lies a subterranean river of esoteric tradition stories of a time before time, when humanity lived in harmony with cosmic law. The Greeks called it the Age of Kronos, the Hindus Satya Yuga, the Abrahamic traditions Eden. This was an epoch when the divine and mortal realms were not yet severed, when knowledge flowed freely, and when the great year's highest frequencies were accessible to all. Then came the fall, the descent into fragmentation, into forgetfulness. But the ancients left clues, encoded in myth, in sacred geometry, in the very alignment of their temples. They knew the cycle would turn again. And now, as we approach 2025, the veils are lifting. The lost knowledge is resurfacing not in dusty tomes, but in sudden insights, in dreams, in the collective awakening happening across the globe. Joseph Campbell famously mapped the monomyth The Hero's Journey that appears in every culture's legends. A call to adventure, a descent into the unknown, trials and revelations, and finally, a return with newfound wisdom. What if humanity itself is now on this journey? The call has been sounded. The old world is crumbling, the trials are upon us, but this is not a reason for despair. It is the necessary initiation, the breaking down of illusions so that a higher truth can emerge. The great year does not merely shift external circumstances. It initiates the soul. Those who recognize the process can move through it with grace, understanding that chaos precedes rebirth. One of the most potent symbols of this age is the rebalancing of masculine and feminine energies. The Piscean age was dominated by hierarchical structures, conquest, and suppression of the sacred feminine. But the Aquarian age brings the return of the goddess not as dominance, but as sacred equilibrium. We see this in the rise of feminine leadership, in the resurgence of earth-based spirituality, in the rejection of old patriarchal systems. The great year's turning is restoring what was lost not through force, but through realignment with natural law. Ancient cultures revered the serpent not as a symbol of evil, but as wisdom, transformation, and kundalini energy. The Mayan god Kukulkan, the Hindu Kundalini, the Egyptian Uraeusel speak of a coiled power within, waiting to be awakened. Science now reveals that our very DNA responds to frequency, to consciousness, to the energy of the cosmos. As the great year's new vibrations intensify, so too does the potential for human evolution. The serpent is rising not as a threat, but as a key to unlocking our fullest potential. Myths often present a crossroads, a moment where the hero must choose between the familiar and the unknown. We stand at such a crossroads now. One path clings to the fading world, to fear, to separation. The other steps into the emerging timeline, where unity consciousness, sovereignty, and co-creation with cosmic forces become possible. 2025 is not a fixed destiny. It is a convergence point, a moment when the hidden timeline becomes visible to those who are ready to see it. The myths were never just stories, they were roadmaps, left for us to rediscover when the time was right. And now, the time is here. The next step is practical integration, how these truths can be lived, not just contemplated. The cosmic clock is turning, and its hands now point toward a moment of reckoning, not in some distant metaphysical realm, but here, in the breath of your daily life. The great year is not merely an abstract concept for scholars to debate. It is a living force, and its transition pulses through every aspect of our existence. To understand it is one thing, but to align with it, to allow its currents to reshape your being and your choices, is where true transformation begins. The first and most essential realization is this: the macrocosm reflects the microcosm. The same forces that move civilizations and shift ages also move within you. Your inner revolutions, your awakenings, your crises, your breakthroughs are not separate from the great year's turning. They are part of it. This means that the chaos you see in the world is not some external phenomenon happening to you. It is also happening through you. The old structures collapsing in society mirror the old constructs dissolving within minds and hearts. The key is not to resist this unraveling, but to recognize it as initiation, to allow the death of what no longer serves so that the new may be born. Navigating the threshold, 3 pillars of alignment. As the Aquarian frequencies intensify, certain principles emerge as anchors in the storm. These are not rules, but natural laws of the New Age ways of being that harmonize with the emerging energy. 1. Sovereignty over submission. The Piscean age thrived on hierarchy, on the idea that truth and authority must come from outside oneself, whether through religion, government, or institutions. The Aquarian impulse, however, is self-referential wisdom. This does not mean reckless individualism, but rather a deep attunement to inner knowing, coupled with the discernment to recognize true authority when it appears. Practical integration. Question inherited narratives not with cynicism, but with curiosity. Cultivate moments of silence to distinguish between external programming and authentic intuition. Seek knowledge, but let experience, not dogma, be your final teacher. 2. Synchronicity over struggle. The old paradigm rewarded force, control, and relentless effort. The new one operates on resonance and flow. When you align with the great year's turning, life stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a dance, not because challenges disappear, but because you begin to move with the currents rather than against them. Practical integration. Notice patterns, repetitions, and coincidences. They are the language of the cosmos. When faced with resistance, pause and ask, am I forcing or am I allowing? Trust that what is meant for you will not pass you by. Release the need to micromanage outcomes. 3. Unity in diversity. The Aquarian age is often misunderstood as a homogenizing force, a bland globalism that erases differences. In truth, it is the opposite, a celebration of uniqueness within a framework of interconnection. The old world divided to conquer. The new one unites by honoring the singular note each being brings to the symphony. Practical integration. Seek collaboration over competition, build bridges, not walls. Honor your own uniqueness without needing to diminish others. Recognize that every act of kindness, creativity, or courage sends ripples through the collective field. You need not move to a mountaintop or renounce the modern world to align with this transition. The great year's turning is woven into the fabric of ordinary moments. In your work, are you serving the dying paradigm or helping midwife the new one? Even small choices where you invest energy, what you create, how you exchange value carry weight. In your relationships, are they based on old patterns of dependency and control, or on mutual growth and liberation? In your spiritual practice, are you repeating rituals by rote, or are you engaging in living dialogue with the unseen? Not all that emerges in this time will be light. As the veils thin, both the sublime and the suppressed rise to the surface. This is why discernment is essential. Not everything that appears new is aligned with the higher frequencies. Some distortions will mimic truth brilliantly. The key is to vibrate at a pitch that repels illusion naturally through integrity, through self-awareness, through unwavering commitment to the real over the convenient. This is perhaps the most thrilling implication of all. We are not passive observers of the great year's turn. We are participants. Every thought, every action, every moment of courage or fear contributes to the unfolding timeline. The ancients spoke of this as the responsibility of holding the vision, of keeping the highest possible future alive in consciousness, even when the outer world seems dark. 2025 is not a finish line, but a gateway, a moment when the choices of individuals carry extraordinary potency. The question is no longer what will happen, but what will you do with the happening? The final section awaits a synthesis of all we've explored, and a call to step fully into the mystery. We have journeyed through the veils of time, tracing the arc of the great year from its celestial mechanics to its mythic echoes, from its philosophical depths to its practical urgings. Now we arrive at the heart of the matter, the moment where knowledge becomes embodiment, where understanding transforms into being. For the true secret of the great year is this: it is not merely something that happens to us, but something that happens through us. We are not just witnesses to the turning of the age, we are the turning itself. History is not a predetermined script, but a living field of potential, shaped by the collective weight of human consciousness. The great year provides the cosmic backdrop, the archetypal rhythms, but it is we who fill in the details with our choices, our actions, our very presence. This is the sacred alchemy of our time, the realization that fate and free will are not opposites, but partners in an eternal dance. The year 2025 is not significant because some prophecy decrees it so, but because it represents a convergence point, a moment when the undercurrents of the great year rise to the surface of daily life, when the hidden timeline becomes visible to those with eyes to see. It is a threshold, and thresholds are sacred. They demand that we choose not once, but continually which side we will stand on. Before us lie two paths, both real, both possible. The path of inertia, where we cling to the fading world, to its crumbling structures, its exhausted stories. This path promises the comfort of the familiar, but its price is the slow dimming of the soul, the quiet acceptance of a reality that no longer serves life. The path of emergence, where we surrender not to apathy, but to the greater intelligence of the turning age. This path requires courage, for it means releasing old certainties and stepping into the unknown. But its reward is the rediscovery of our true nature as co-creators, as vessels of the cosmic will, as living expressions of the great year's unfolding story. The choice is not between light and darkness, but between awakening and sleep, between participation and passivity. To align with the great year is to cultivate what the ancients called kairos, the qualitative, opportune time, as opposed to mere chronological chronos. It is the art of sensing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen, when to stand firm and when to flow. In this final stretch before 2025, consider these questions as guiding lights. Where in your life have you been out of sync with your deeper rhythm? What old stories, habits, or attachments are ready to be released into the fires of transformation? How can you, in your own way, become a steward of the new timeline, not in some grandiose gesture, but in the quiet integrity of your daily existence? There is an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But in the age we are entering, the reverse is also true. When the teacher is ready, the student appears. Each of us carries a fragment of the great year's wisdom, a piece of the puzzle that others need. Your awakening is not just for you, it is a gift to the collective, a note in the symphony of the turning age. This is why your journey matters. This is why your courage is essential. The world does not need saviors, it needs activated souls, individuals who have remembered their role in the greater story and who dare to live it without apology. And so we arrive at the final invitation, the one that has been echoing through all these words. Step into your place in the great year. Not tomorrow, not when the signs are clearer. Now, in whatever way is true for you. If you are an artist, create as if your work is a beacon in the gathering dark. If you are a healer, tend to the wounds of the world, with the knowledge that every act of repair ripples across time. If you are a seeker, question everything, especially the questions themselves. If you are weary, rest, but do not confuse respite with surrender. The turning of the age is not a spectator sport, it is a communal ceremony, and each of us holds a thread in the weaving of what comes next. We have reached the end of this particular journey, but the greater journey is just beginning. The great year does not pause for our comprehension, it moves, inexorable and majestic, and it beckons us to move with it. If these words have resonated with you, if you feel the stirring of something ancient and knowing within, then I invite you to share your reflections below, your insights, your questions, your own glimpses of the hidden timeline. Subscribe for deeper explorations as we continue to map the unfolding mysteries of this transition. Pass this message on to others who may be sensing the same currents but lack the language to name them. The story is not over. It is being written by you, by me, by all who dare to remember their role in the great year's eternal turning. The next chapter begins now. Are you ready?